Welcome to Charts Today. It is Friday, the 12th of June, and I am still in Leipzig in Germany. Had a big client party here last night, and I'm heading back to London today. That's a train to Berlin and a flight back to London. So yeah, it's going to be a day on the road, really. But interestingly here, this is the Nasdaq 100, the 60-minute chart. We had quite a strong recovery in the Nasdaq, but we are still below the cloud, and if we make new lows, we activate this downside target. If we look at the future, that's down just under 0.5% today. Those downside targets were activated, but the future is back above the cloud with an upside target because we have the benefit of it trading today while the Nasdaq cash market is closed. Of course, SpaceX is the big news today, and that is going to be quite key. I've covered that already this morning on TradingView. If you follow me on TradingView, you can follow my charts today there as well. And here you can follow my videos. Just follow me, David_Linton, if you're using TradingView. And you can use the targets on TradingView as well as on Updater. So here we're seeing the upside target there, downside targets on the 60-minute chart. So it's going to be an interesting day for sure. Looking at the S&P future, that is also slightly lower today, although we do have an upside target and we're back above the cloud there as well. Of course, the daily charts are still very bullish here. Looking more now at just the macro situations going on, the dollar, we're waiting to see if we can activate that upside target. The 60-minute chart, we've also already activated an upside target for the dollar, so that's quite key. The yen, we're seeing that dollar yen rate rising, that 160 level, really just the level at which we see some yen intervention. And if we look at the 60-minute chart, you can see that intervention yesterday. Bank of Japan again intervening. It shows up in these really big candles basically. And then if we look at Bitcoin, this has been a really bearish situation, and you can see here just trying to find support at that 58,800 level. And if we look at the 60-minute chart for Bitcoin, there is a bit of recovery, but it's a weak recovery and counter trend. So that's quite key as well. The UK market is quite strong this morning, up 1% nearly, and the DAX in Germany, we're seeing the future up 1.3%. So we're seeing European markets reacting quite strongly. The DAX up 1.3, the CAC up 1.3, but the markets are relatively flat. Japan up on that weaker yen, so that's quite key there. We're just holding above the cloud. You can bet your bottom yen that they're watching the cloud in Japan. And then if we look at the Sensex, that's up 1%, but little respite given that downside target. And the Aussie market up nearly 2%, but still waiting to see which way we're going to break and which target we're going to activate. The upside target, that's not really enough, 88.73. That's not really enough to activate this upside target. So quite key. Crude oil, interestingly, is down this morning. Trump talking of a resolution to the Strait of Hormuz by the weekend, or this weekend, seems optimistic, but the oil price is down into the 80s. The first move below 90 for a while for Brent crude. And if I look at my screen this morning, I've already put my energy report out to energy clients. 2% down in crude oil, 5% down in gas prices in Europe and the UK. So that's really quite significant for the energy mix. So that will obviously have an improvement on inflation re-affecting the market, but we are seeing that still prices are relatively elevated. Looking at coffee, we talked about that being very bearish on the daily chart, finding a floor at the previous support level. Sugar down 1.15%, meeting that downside target. Which way are we going to activate? This is going to tell us which way we break out of the sideways range. The downside pressure. Look at all those downside targets still there for sugar. You can't ignore that. Looking at gold, looking pretty weak, down 1% this morning on the chart, still pretty bearish there. And on the short term, we met that downside target. Every time we have a reaction in price, we tend to then generate a new downside target. Silver is down 2.4% this morning. And again, that move up gives us the opportunity to generate a new downside target. Looking at the Mag 7, it's going to be interesting. Are we going to have Mag 8 with SpaceX? Who knows? But looking at the Mag 7, we had Apple recovering some ground, although they have been relatively weak lately, falling away there, bouncing at 290. Amazon up 1.5%. And of course, they've got a hand in space exploration as well, potentially. So it'd be interesting to see if there's any move in sympathy there. Google up 1%. Still the star performer really this year so far, really moving well. Microsoft struggling, back down 1.7%. Nvidia up 2.2%. And Tesla, that's again a Musk company. Going to be interesting to see if this moves in sympathy, but we have got an upside target there on Tesla as well. Looking at the Dow 30, where was the performance? It was Honeywell yesterday, up 6%. But not enough really to change the fact this chart doesn't look great. Boeing up 6% as well, fairly flat. Caterpillar looking strong again, having fallen heavily the day before, and Amgen we're seeing also just really struggling, even though that was a strong move. We're still below the cloud there. On the downside, we were pretty weak on software companies. We saw Salesforce lower, Chevron giving up some ground on that oil price weakening, so that's quite key as well. The Nasdaq, the strong performers, KLA, Lam, lots of these charts with upside targets and strong trends. Lam, look at that, Micron, back in the fold. And if we look at the weaker side, it's all software. Autodesk, look at those charts. Adobe, Intuit, all making new lows. Not good news at all. Downside targets below the cloud. So this is why the trend is so important. Last of all, a look at the FTSE. We're mostly up today. It's really interesting when you look at the number of fallers. It's BP and Shell on that weaker oil price. No big surprises there. And moving back below the cloud. BAE Systems, obviously defence in the news in the UK at the moment. But if we look at the leading stocks, ironically, international airlines, BA basically, BA, IAG Group, BA and Iberia, upside targets here and it's up 5% this morning. Antofagasta, we're seeing quite a strong performance there, still trending higher. Persimmon Group, that's an interesting one. And we look at that up, but boy, oh boy, that is not a happy chart. And so that's the key thing, is you've still got to look at EasyJet up 2.6%. I'm flying with them today, back above the cloud. You'd think they'd really be hit by this oil price, but the fact is we're looking relatively strong. But all eyes on the Nasdaq today. That is going to be the key, isn't it? Just watching that future, and when the cash market opens, watching that SpaceX chart. The 1 minute chart on SpaceX is going to be really great to watch. Unfortunately, I'm going to be mostly in the air while that's happening. Until Monday, have a great weekend and happy charting. Bye for now.